Hey everybody, welcome to Watches with Dennis. And I decided let's go ahead and let's do a lunchtime, at least lunchtime for me, live stream. So welcome everyone. I know I didn't get the announcement out very quickly, so we'll see if anyone shows up. But of course, you can always watch it recorded at your leisure. So today, what I want to do is actually go over the announcement about Rolex offering a certified pre-owned program for its watches. This news just dropped today. All of the watch sites are covering it. All the print watch sites are covering it because, of course, it's a fairly big deal. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and preemptively create a poll if I can get this all. It's been a while since I've done a poll, so let's see if I can get one going here. Do you think the Rolex pre-owned program will help with AD supply issues? With a and there we go. Put that live. So I can just kind of set up while we're going along today. All right. So before we dive into that, figured we'd go ahead and we'd do a bit of an update. And actually, I have just from a few days ago. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. So I have this. I did this poll up on the YouTube channel, and actually, this was before. Obviously, this was 29th. So this was before I knew about the pre-owned program. However, this relates very well to it. So you can't see the full text from my summary snapshot I took out of my YouTube studio, but essentially, what happened earlier this week, I needed to be up north in town where the Rolex authorized dealer is. I was up there for non-watch related business, but I was only like a 4-minute drive away from the AD when I got done. So I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and go in because I've been curious. I've been seeing a lot of reports online. I've heard a few YouTube channels now note they got the call. I'm not on any Rolex wait lists, so I wasn't going to get a call ever because I'm not on a list. But there's been all these reports that there's supply available now, with the economy, the downturn, the collapse of crypto, whatever excuses we want to have. The bottom line is we are hearing people more and more who don't have a lot of buy history with Rolex authorized dealers actually obtaining watches. And hello, BJ. Welcome to the live stream. We're going to go over a hopefully fun Rolexy topic, as well as fun as Rolex topics get, which, your mileage may vary. But I'm actually leading in via telling a story that relates to this poll we were conducting, which the poll's still up, of course. So if people want to vote, they can. But obviously, I don't plan to revisit it after this. But so I drove over those few blocks away, and then I went into the authorized dealer. Now, this isn't like a Rolex boutique. This dealer has way more than Rolex. They've got Tag. They've got Tudor, of course. They do Patek Philippe. They have Cartier. They have JLC. I think they've got some other brands that I don't know as well. So when I was there, I asked the sales representative, what is the wait time looking like on a no date Submariner? Because the only Rolex I'm really in the market for at this point that I would consider buying is a no date sub. I'm not really interested in anything else they currently make. And the sales rep said, well, that one's still, I'm assuming, I know the date versions are more popular than the no date. So I thought maybe there's a chance that's not a super bad wait. But he said that it's a year. It would be approximately a year to get a no date. So I was like, okay. And that kind of speaks to the frustration that so many people have had with trying to obtain Rolex watches. And that has to do with the wait. You go through life, if you're like me, you don't think about, let's assume you're not into watches. Let's say you're not into watches. You're not, you weren't historically a watch collector. And all of a sudden you're like, I've saved up. I want to get a watch. And in fact, you're probably going to go in and say, I want to get my first luxury watch. And you're probably going to say on top of that, I want to get my first Rolex because chances are it's the only luxury watch brand you know. I mean, you might know like Cartier, but you probably don't know they make watches. So you go in, you've got the money. Maybe you looked online, found the watch you wanted and saw what the MSRP was. And then you go in and you say, all right, I want to buy that Submariner. And then they say, we don't have any. When are you going to get it? We're not sure. Okay. So can I place an order? Well, we can put you on a wait list. That's not how most stuff works. And I know on one of the watch forums on Facebook, someone had just shared the news we're going to go into later in this episode and talked about how he felt that while the new pre-owned thing is going to be a good thing, but that Rolex doesn't have a brand problem, and I disagree with that. But we'll go into that more after this poll. So explain this poll real quick. So when I was there, you see the part of the story I just told in the paragraph above the voting options. I said, well, okay, why don't you show me some other watches that you have? I mean, actually went in to look at some of these watches. So I didn't know which one. I didn't call ahead, so I didn't know what they had available or not. So I had him show me 4 watches. The first one was actually the one I explicitly went in to look at, which was the silver Black Bay 58. And so for those not familiar, that Black Bay 58, very, very popular dive watch from Tudor. It's sort of been Tudor's renaissance since 2012 has been the Black Bay line. Some people will jokingly refer to Tudor as the Black Bay Company because it seems like they just keep turning out a bunch of different iterations on the Black Bay. Granted, they seem to be showing a little bit of love to the Pelagos at this point. But they made one in sterling silver that I thought looked pretty nice. I've never handled a 58 before, though. I do have a Tudor Black Bay. I have a Black Bay bronze, not the 58. I got the fatty, the 43 millimeter one. And so I was curious about how this one might look on my wrist. I mean, obviously, I knew it would wear better because that 43 millimeter fits, but it's a close fit. So I wanted to see this one was less of a chonker. And so I had him show me that. And then I also asked if they had any Cartier Santos watches. And so he had to go back to the safe, and then he brought out a tray of the 3 that they have. So 2 of these are the what do they call it? The Santos de Cartier. They're the mechanical watches. So there's a large version with a date. Then there's the medium Santos, which doesn't have a date feature because there's no way you can tell from these photos. And then he brought out the quartz. There are 2 quartz ones that they look less sporty and more refined. I believe this is the smaller one. He brought, if I remember looking at the pricing. So he brought out the smaller, there's not a medium. There's a small and a large is how they label it. Cartier has their own, interesting little branding labels that they run with. So anyway, so I did this poll to say, just like, which one of these do you think is the best? I'm not in the market in particular for, if I was in the market for anything, it would be the number 2 vote. It'd be the Black Bay. And I'd let go of my bronze though to do it. I wouldn't need 2 Black Bay watches. I think that's not something that I'm into. I know some collectors get really into going in, say, collecting all of the Seiko SKXs or whatever, but that's never appealed to me. So as you can see, the response rate was overwhelmingly, essentially, almost half the voters chose. And I don't remember how many votes were on this. I think it was around, do I still have my channel up? I can probably tell you guys real quick from we have a in YouTube, we have a dashboard that summarizes 87. Okay, 87 votes and only 5 likes. People didn't like my poll. So about half of the respondents said medium Santos, which I actually was in the market for at one point, then followed by 30% of the Black Bay 58 in silver, then the large Santos mechanical watch, and the quartz at 5% taking up the end, which didn't surprise me. So I thought before going into the main meat of our episode, I would go ahead and give some quick thoughts on these. They're all nice. I think they're all nice watches. The medium Santos was surprisingly small to me, given the name medium. I was really, it wore well. And again, it's a square watch. So rectangular watches often are a smaller watch by and large for people. And so I could definitely see like pulling it off. The bracelet was super comfortable. So it's got that the metal fine link bracelet. It drapes really well. Obviously, I didn't have it all clasped up and sized for my wrist, but putting it on, it felt really comfortable. Really, I don't like to use the word silky with steel. I don't think it really works quite like that. But that's what it kind of reminded me of. I mean, the closest example I have to that would probably be my Glashuta Original bracelet on my Panomatic Lunar. It feels really good too, really smooth. And to date, actually, my favorite bracelet, I don't own the watch anymore, but my favorite bracelet was actually on a Rolex Oyster Perpetual 34 millimeter. Really, not my favorite clasp system because it's basically just a friction clasp, but the bracelet itself, very, very comfortable. But Rolex is very well known for having quite comfortable bracelets. So that's the medium, and I love the medium not having the date. I thought that was far more attractive, I guess I would say. Though the large Santos puts the date at a 6 o'clock position. You can't see that from this tiny little thumbnail, but so it's not a badly balanced date or anything. The large Santos wore better. I thought it looked better in terms of its size than the medium did, even on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. But I still would have chosen a medium over the large just to give up the date function. It's just the medium felt a little small it started to feel more like I was wearing a dress watch, even though the Santos de Cartier is a very, very sporty style watch. And then finally, the quartz Santos. That actually, it's super thin, which would make sense because it's quartz. But I was really surprised. It felt like it would wear way better than I had expected. Because again, I was for a while looking at the quartz Santos watches, and I was looking at the large version, which I think size-wise is closer to the large Santos. And so I bet that one would wear, maybe I'd like it more. But again, because it's on a leather strap and it doesn't have the crown guards, it's just got the crown with the cabochon sticking out of it, pointy like. The smaller one might actually be better because it would definitely fit in the dress watch, unobtrusive, shouldn't be noticeable sort of thing. So I was really surprised. I didn't think I would like it as much. All of them felt a little small to me, but that's probably because I do have the large Santos 100 now, and it is not like a dress watch. That is a big old chunky, like the era of Panerai and Stallone promoting large watches. Even though it was after 2010, it's such a larger watch than what they go with the Santoses now. And then the Black Bay was great, really well balanced. It would wear far better for me than the bronze. The only issue that I would have, and again, you don't really look at it, but that they went with I haven't remarked on this to the sales rep, that they went with a display case back on that undecorated Spartan, like Seiko 5 looking movement blows my mind. Well, it doesn't blow my mind because it let them save an entire case back that they might have otherwise felt pressured to make out of silver. But silver is not exactly the most expensive metal out there. And they could have also done what they have done with other watches. Some bronze watches do, in fact, and that's like put a steel case back on it. There's no reason for that to be a display case back. You are not looking at anything. And it's not that it's a bad movement, but it ain't decorated like at all. There's nothing to look at. It's not machine decorated. So very, very disappointing display case back on the Black Bay. But it did wear really well. They only had it on the leather strap. I've heard very good things about the cloth NATOs from Tudor. I still have never handled one. So I don't know that for sure. Of course, you can buy them from Tudor if you really care. But like with my Black Bay bronze, because it's 23 millimeter lug width, I actually ended up just getting a third-party silicone strap, which ultimately, I did try a NATO before that, but the silicone felt a lot better. So anyway, so that was the poll, and I think we've killed, or we being me, have killed enough time talking about that. So let me do a new screen share and let us go into the topic du jour, and that is going to be the new Rolex launch of what they refer to as the Rolex Certified Pre-Owned Watch Program. Now, they have a lot. There are a lot of articles out there. I know Hodinkee has an article. We're going to go ahead and share a blog to watch. So you should now see that. Let me put me in the wait. That's putting me full screen. Sorry about that. We don't need to look at me like that. We'll put me in a tiny corner so you can still see my mouth moving. Okay, so here we go. This is the big news that everyone is all excited about. So Rolex has announced, and I'm not going to read this aloud to you because that would be extremely tedious, but I thought it could be a fun conversation to have, especially since there's so much going on with the market on Rolex lately. But so the plan is the retailers of Rolex are going to be able to start offering pre-owned Rolex watches for people to have the option to buy. And so currently, they've indicated that this is only going to be available in 6 countries, and the United States is not one of them. But then they're going to start rolling more out in early 2023. So that's good. And there's not a whole lot else to it other than there's a little bit of details. I think that's the big takeaway. But obviously, because it's going to be through the Rolex authorized dealers, The watches are going to be certified. So Rolex itself, in some capacity, will issue a certification saying this is indeed an authentic, real Rolex, not a fake Rolex. They're also going to come with a warranty. I believe it's going to be a couple of years. So you'll get the kind of like how when you've ever had a Rolex and you've gone into an official Rolex dealer for servicing, you get a warranty on that service as well that lasts, I believe it's 2 years. So another thing they did indicate is that the watches are only going to be allowed into the program if they're at least 3 years old. So you can't take a watch that you bought in 2022 and then put it into the Rolex Certified program in 2022. The watch would need to go back to 2019 at least in order to be eligible. So that's the big news that everyone's talking about, and there aren't a whole ton of details out there. I think everyone's just pulling from the same sort of press release. So let's go over what positives of this, and I don't know if I'd necessarily say negatives because I don't personally think there's necessarily on the surface of it there's nothing wrong with this program. Some so anyway, positive. So I'm going, my brain's going in too many different directions. So let's start with the positives. This is something other brands have done, offering a certified pre-owned approach through official channels. And I do think that it's a very reasonable mechanism for which companies can take advantage of the secondhand market and still actually make money on those sales. Because if you think about it, for most manufacturers, if you don't do anything pre-owned, the only thing that matters is that initial sale, that sale to the authorized dealer. And after that, what happens with the watch is moot as far as Rolex is concerned, not factoring things like reputation and stuff, of course, which we'll get into. So going in and saying, hey, we want a piece of that very, very, very lucrative pie of secondhand Rolex dealing. Let's see if we can get into the business of it. Now, they have some advantages that are going to help a lot, I think, in terms of getting people to want to do this. One, being able to access the product through the retail experience by walking into a store and being able to walk out with a Rolex. Obviously, this is a really good opportunity for them. If you go into an authorized dealer, for example, let's set aside all the issues involving the ability to access Rolex right now. If you were to go in, like the first time when I bought my first Rolex was used. Actually, I've had two Rolexes and they were both used, but the one I still have was my first. And I had the internet was around, so I have no excuse, but I was young and I didn't look. I had no idea how much they were. I had no idea. And the one I bought, though, was less than what they sell for new. That's how it was back then. And so it's like, if you were to walk into a watch dealer of any brand and see the new watches and be like sticker shocked, because it's real easy to get sticker shocked when you look at the pricing, especially if you don't know that you can haggle. I mean, you can't haggle on Rolex, but you can often get discounts on many of the other brands as long as you're not at a boutique. Then seeing that there's a tray or a display case full of used ones, which look pretty nice, look like they're in good condition, that, there are some people that might have otherwise been like, I'm priced out. I didn't realize I was going to be priced out, but I'm priced out. But they would be able to go in and say, oh, wait, no, I'm going to be all right. I see Orange Hand has joined us. Orange Hand, welcome to the live stream. Problem is authorized dealers selling a used watch for more than new. There is a perceived conflict of interest. Why would I sell you a new one? And that's one of the things that we're definitely going to have to get into here when we talk about whether this is going to make a difference, because I think that's an interesting point that you raise. But anyway, so one thing is that tie in with the authorized dealers. Another thing is this whole certified pre-owned, right, that they're stressing. So Rolex is going to have these official certificates of authenticity and say, I'm certifying that this is indeed not a fake Rolex. Now, again, I think that it's a nice thing that they can offer. However, like in the grand scheme of the used market, most of the major, like if you're going to Watchfinder, Watchbox, David SW, Crown and Caliber, Hodinkee, setting aside like the backpack gray market dealers, all of these major secondhand sellers, and even the like more pure gray market like Joma Shop, their reputations are all on the line of only selling authentic, whether it's used or just unworn. It's easy to get it I mean, other than a few like Panerais, for example, where Panerai even struggles to know whether the watch is a forgery or not because they do nothing to they drop in these Ibosh movements and don't decorate them, and it's an easy thing to clone. Setting a few weird instances aside, like David SW is not going to sell you a fake Rolex, right? And if somehow it happened, they would take every effort in the world to redeem themselves to you. So again, it's like it's a nice to have. Don't get me wrong, but you'd have to again, like non-watch people, non-watch collectors, they probably care more a little bit more about that. I think a lot of people who've really been around for a while and are into watch collecting understand that you don't have to work for Rolex to be able to certify that a Rolex is indeed a Rolex, especially when you start thinking about most faked Rolexes, which are not designed to be super tricky or anything. The moment you open them up, you'd be able to tell by the movement. So, but anyway, it's a nice to have. I just don't know that it moves the needle all that much. And then, of course, the 2-year international warranty. Again, most of the dealer, like secondhand dealers, like the watch boxes of the world, they offer a warranty already, and it typically is around a couple of years. Now, again, you might be more comfortable with having a Rolex warranty, so Rolex will fix the watch. Does it move the needle much? I don't think so. I mean, you're already willing to buy the watch from Watchfinder or whatever. Them servicing it probably isn't going to overwhelm you in the sense of like, oh no, I can't bear to, like, they know that they need to put in a new sapphire crystal with the Rolex laser etched on it, for example, right? Now compared to like backpack watch dealers, that that is another matter entirely. And I see David Dennis has joined us in the live stream, and he is a member of the Watches with Dennis Club. I can see the special little logo. So thank you for supporting the channel at a whole 99 cents US per month. I know, because he's Canadian. Do uneducated owners place more comfort feeling in buying from an AD, kind of like buying a used car at a dealer versus a random car lot? I would say not even just uneducated, but even educated people. When I first started really getting into collecting, I was really nervous. And when I bought that first used Rolex, I bought it from a local area jewelry store. I was incredibly worried that I had bought a fake, even though I had paid so much. Like, it shouldn't be a fake. Like, I went in, I didn't know anything about changing straps or anything. I went into a place and had them take the watch band off and give me the serial number. And I had box and papers. So I actually had the papers that I could compare it to. I had wondered, were the papers possibly faked? I took it to a jeweler who thought it didn't look legitimate to him, and then he changed his mind. And this was before I had the serial number off. And then I took it to another place, and that was an authorized dealer, but they didn't have anyone around who could take the bracelet off. I actually went to like one of those mall kiosk places that sells watch straps. Anyway, so from my own experience, when I was an ignorant buyer, absolutely, I would have felt way more comfortable buying from an AD. But I knew at the time that I didn't want to, or would have struggled to afford a new one. And the used one was at a price that, while really expensive for me, was achievable. BJ says, or asks, do you think they will use this program to try and control the secondary mark prices? That's what I don't know. And that's the next thing. So let's start. Those are sort of the positives we could say about the, okay. So more inventory for retailers, right? Real certification. So absolutely 100% this is a true Rolex watch, and a 2-year international warranty. So we got 3 things, 3 pretty good positives. So let's talk about negatives. The first thing is what BJ brings up here: secondary market pricing. These articles, and I've read 3 of them now, none of them have indicated, because they're all pulling from the same press release, right? None of them know what's the pricing going to be like on these. Is Rolex going to sell used Rolex watches for a different amount than they currently trade for at market? What's the market pricing secondhand, right? So it's been a while since I've looked. I haven't done a recent market analysis video, but last, a couple of months ago, I remember I looked at a Rolex, I think Rolex dated Submariner. It was running for what, like 14, 15,000, maybe it was a no date. Anyway, it was like $14,000, $15,000 on a watch that retails like 9,000 to 10,000. Okay, so giving you a sense of the markup, right? About 50% markup. So does Rolex sell their certified used model for $14,000, let's say. And I mean, is that the same as the market price? Do they go down to like 11,000? But as Orange Hand points out, this seems to be a problem if you're going into the authorized dealer, which is where these will be. These are the official retailers. And let's say what I opened with, like what I did this week, where I went in and I said, hey, do you have what's the wait list on a no date sub? I already went in knowing that the MSRP currently for a no date sub is $8,950 US. I'm not paying more than $8,950 aside from tax on that watch. So if they were to say, oh no, we don't, unfortunately it's a year wait for you to get your Rolex no date Submariner, but we got a used one here in the case for $13,000. Well, that's a hard no. Why would I pay you more for a used watch than I would for a new watch? Because that's not how things work normally, right? But we all know that there are different examples. So Scotty Pinball has joined us. Welcome to the channel, Scott, or to the live stream, I should say. It won't change the supply-demand dynamics. The secondary pricing should, in theory, stay steady unless I'm missing something. No, I don't think you're missing anything. And as Scotty Pinball's last name, Pinball, would indicate, we've seen this in pinball quite a bit. It's only now finally starting to not be the case anymore, aside from LEs, really. But we went through the same thing in the pinball hobby, where all of a sudden the pricing was all over the place, but it was all higher than, like, it was cheaper to buy new than it was to buy used. And so as Scotty points out, it's like the demand is the demand. So to me, it doesn't make sense that Rolex would sell their used watches for less than what they're going for on the market. But let's say that that was their plan. Let's say they didn't know business somehow, and that was their plan. Well, here's where it would all fall down, right? So let's say I go in with my old, hey, they've got one here, right? In fact, right? This looks a lot like my watch. So let's say you go in with a 16570, Rolex Explorer 2 from 2010 or earlier. That's when that was when they kind of ended that model, that reference line. And I know off of Chrono 24 that watch trades for right now, it depends on condition, but roughly $9,000, right? And let's say the Rolex AD says, oh yeah, well, we're going to sell that. We sell that under market. We're going to sell that at 8,000 and we're going to offer you 5 for it. Well, why would I do it? Because I could call David SW and probably get 7.5. You see what I'm saying? So how are they going to get inventory unless they're competing with the secondary market? I had my Rolex Explorer, my Rolex Oyster Perpetual I used to own. I traded it towards another watch that I ended up getting. However, I'm more than willing to share, like for sale values. It's like, what do they go for? So this was a 34 millimeter watch. The unworn ones on Chrono 24 were listed. I don't know if they were selling. They clearly were sitting. Were listed at $7,000. I had one third-party dealer offer me 5 for the trade. I had another offer me $5,250 for the trade, which is the one I did. And I also contacted Joma Shop because they will buy pre-owned watches, and they typically sell pretty low on their site. $3,500 was the offer. $3,500. Guess which one of those 3 was an absolute hard pass. So, I mean, if that's what Rolex ends up doing, no one's going to sell the watch to them. I mean, maybe there'll be a few people that don't know any better, or it's like they don't want the cash. They're going to try and put it towards getting the new Rolex. Like, could you trade towards a new Rolex and do it through the AD? Maybe that would get you something, but it's unclear to me. So anyway, Orange Hand says, people are going to justify the high price of certified pre-owned in a couple of ways. Warranty is transferable and global. Buying from an AD may build a relationship so you can get hot watches at retail. Those are some good points. Though, it's weird for me. I want to, in terms of your point about the building the relationship. See, that's the current struggle, right? Is if that currently people think there are 2 ways you can get your Rolex Submariner. Go and pay $15,000 to a secondhand dealer, or build the relationship with the AD. The reason why a lot of people wish they had the relationship with the AD, but they won't build it, is because they feel like they have to buy so much crap that they don't even want. You end up spending more money than it would have been going to the secondhand dealer and buying. Like, and that would be that's kind of my boat that I would end up being in. It's like, if I can't just walk in and buy my no date sub, I'm not gonna buy a date. Let's say they don't even have date just, but let's say they did, like they used to. I'm not gonna buy some 39 millimeter date just to get the Submariner I want, because by the time I do that, I spent more than it would have cost me to get the date the Submariner secondhand, and I'm stuck with a date just I don't even want. So I think that's been the frustration for a lot of people. Obviously, there are others that are interested in like owning a box full of samey looking Rolexes. No, well, I was going to say no judgment, but not too harsh of a judgment. And that, of course, building that relationship, that makes sense for them, right? There's a reason for them to be all in. Now, Orange Hand also points out that Rolex will charge more than gray dealers. I do agree. They will. They will be able to, for the same reasons you mentioned earlier, Orange. The transferable warranty and the certification, they're doing value adds that people will be able to embrace, which, again, totally makes sense to me. Now, the big question that I've been seeing online today, which granted, these discussions haven't gone on very long because all this news just dropped today, is will this certified program make a difference? Like right now, what's the big issue? We've touched on it several times, but it's not even the secondhand pricing per se. It's if you walk in like I did earlier this week and you ask about a Rolex, it's not going to be in stock. They've got display models with fake movements in them that maybe, hopefully, if you want to at least get a feel for what one will wear like. But to a lot of people, it is confusing to asinine that you would walk in to an authorized dealer and not be able to walk out with a watch that, one, you want, and two, you already have the money ready to buy for. And you can't do it. But and again, that's where my poll that I opened the video with up on was going with. Like, I wasn't at a Rolex boutique. The authorized dealer I went to sells Tag Heuer, sells Tudor, sells Patek Philippe, sells Jaeger-LeCoultre, and sells Cartier. And I know they have other brands there too, but those are the ones I know for sure that I recognize. So while I was there, now granted, I went there because I wanted to take a look at the silver Tudor anyway, but while I was there, I had them show me their Tudors, which when I was, I had one pulled out of the case, but that was the first thing when we went up to the Tudor desk, the sales representative's like, we just got a shipment of the Tudor. We have basically all the Tudors people want right now. We just got a shipment of Tudor in. And it's like, yeah, the thing was full of black bays, not display models, real black bays. And then I asked, can you show me Cartier Santos? They brought out 3 different models. I mean, outside of 3 different reference numbers of Santos out of 5 of the regular production runs I'm familiar with. Like, they didn't bring out the bigger quartz one, and they didn't bring out the one that looks the same as the quartz ones, the extra large. That's the same, really, really non-sporty looking one on the Blue Alligator, but with the mechanical movement. Those were the 2 they didn't have, but they brought out the others. I mean, so this is where I'm getting at with this. I don't know that this is enough to move the needle in a way where I think Rolex wants to. This will help them capture revenue. So from a business decision perspective, I think this is great. But like a lot of you in the chat have indicated, I do not think that this is really going to solve the problem. Now, one of the things that was also mentioned in this article, and I've seen in some others as well, is Rolex has been taking other steps in regards to this frustration, because while they might be, as a brand, very happy to see that their watches, I mean, it's a great selling point, right? And again, we saw it with pinball, backlogs of pinball machines, and pinball machines going for more used than new. Even if you're not directly profiting off of it, your brand looks great when you're able to go and say, hey, guess what, guys? If you go and you buy a Rolex Submariner, when you're done with it, you'll sell it for more than you paid. What a great deal, right? Except it pisses the whole world off when you walk into an authorized dealer and then you find out, guess what? Yeah, we sell them, but you'll never get one unless you want to maybe join a wait list and see if you're interested still in a year. And a lot of people won't be, or, they have to reserve all of those watches. I mean, the ADs are making money, so don't get me wrong. It's not like they're hurting, but if you're selling all the Rolexes to your loyal Rolex customers, what happens to all the new customers that wanted a Rolex? a lot of them are not going to go and buy those exorbitant, overpriced used rates. They're going to buy other brands, and that was kind of where my poll was coming at, and where I know I on one of the watch forums today kind of argued is, I mean, that would have been my boat if I had walked in today like I did in 2008 to get a Rolex, and I found out I couldn't get a Rolex. I probably have left the store with a Cartier or a Tudor or a JLC or some, I get a different luxury watch. And what I'm curious about is longer term, does this permanently turn potential Rolex customers now into permanent other brand customers in the future? Because we know some people, they only buy Rolex. And maybe some of that is the investment. Like they take comfort in that they know that the watches will basically retain a lot of value. Some of them might just be like, that was the first watch they had. It was comfortable. Why mess up a good thing? They're the ones that order the same meal at McDonald's every time they go. There are a lot of people like that. But those same people, if they put on a Cartier Santos, might move forward in life going, you know what? I'm just going to keep buying Cartiers. Maybe I want to get a Pasha or a Roadster or whatever, And JLC people might go and get a reversal and be like, wow, oh, wait, they sell sports model. Let's get a Polaris while we're, in 2 years when I'm ready for another luxury watch. That is, I think, the bigger concern. Now, one of the things, and it was noted in this article, I'll throw the article back up here on the screen. So this isn't the main point of this article, but I wasn't following this all that closely, but Rolex is actually taking steps. So they've already upped their production. Rolex has for a long time been known, other than 2020 with the shutdown related to the pandemic, for a few months that really impacted their factory. Rolex has historically turned out 1 million watches a year. And that's another thing. To me, it's fascinating to be a luxury brand, and you put out 1 million of something a year. It seems counterintuitive. Regardless, so they've been upping, according to this, their annual production's up by tens of thousands of units. So they're turning out a lot more watches than they were. But I think what's most interesting also is they are in the process of building a new manufacturing center. So given that they've already upped their production at their factory and they're building another factory to make even more Rolex watches, I think these are all clear signs that I don't think I'm old man yells out clouding here. I think that Rolex recognizes long term they're going to be in a lot of trouble. I think potentially. I think right now they're fine, but I think longer term, as this reputation of you need to do sexual favors to the Rolex AD if you ever want to get ahead on the wait list, and all of this sort of stuff is just going to become a problem for them. So they're trying to make it so that you shouldn't have to wait like this is some sort of like handcrafted product to get an expensive watch that you want. Cartier doesn't make you wait. JLC doesn't make you wait. It doesn't fit where they are in the price point segment. It doesn't fit that this shouldn't be something you could walk out of the store with. So anyway, that's what I think is going on. So let us go ahead and close out this poll. I asked at the start of all of this whether or not you think that this pre-owned program would help with the authorized dealer supply issues. And according to the poll results, 62% of you say no, and 37% of you say yes. So about 2/3 of you are like, nope, don't think this is going to affect that. And that would be my stance. Yeah, I don't think this in and of itself helps that much with it. There's some potential. I really struggle with what a lot of you in chat have said, like used prices being more than new when you walk in. So the value of being able to have more inventory, I think, sort of negated by you having to break the news to people that, well, if you're willing to wait, you'll get a completely unworn watch for less money than this. Now, another thing that was noted in these articles is that these are also going to be at least 3 years old. They did note that the Rolex watches are not going to be brand spanking new. So you can't walk in and have bought a watch in 2022 and then immediately or in 3 months gone back in and flipped it to your Rolex dealer. So and I'm not quite sure why it's that way. I assume it's to avoid some level of flipping or being involved in the flipping. Because again, a lot of these will still be the same reference number, right? Rolex doesn't usually change their reference within 3 years. They usually run out. They don't always run super long, like the 16570, which ran for over a decade. They don't usually go that long, but some of them, like the Daytona, for example, is pretty long in the tooth at this point. So, it does just depend. Anyway, I just thought we would do a little under an hour live stream today to discuss this news rather than me throwing a video. I'm sure there'll be plenty of pre-recorded videos that people have thrown up. And of course, this is available pre-recorded, those who didn't watch it live. And other than that, I'm just going to say, I hope all of you have a really good rest of the week. Take care, everybody.